What's the crack, everyone? To mark the release of 28 Years Later, one of my favourite film franchises, I wanted to do a zombie survival bow and how I would do it if I was stuck in that situation. So I made a bow and arrows out of common household items, and I'm going to show you how to do it. And here's how they shoot. Good stuff. Aha. So after only a few minutes of work, we have this pretty much straight. You're going to use spoons for arrowheads because every single household in the world probably has access to some sort of spoon. And if you don't, you'll be able to find these things pretty readily. There's loads of other materials that we can make arrowheads from that are very effective and work really well. But this is steel, it's stainless, so it's not going to rust on us. And it's pretty much the exact shape and size we need to make an arrowhead. And in no time, we have a perfectly flat, very arrow-like looking piece of material. Okay, if we are in some sort of apocalypse scenario, duct tape is going to be our friend for so many different reasons. So stock up on it, have some in your house, dead useful stuff. The other thing, for very similar reasons, rope, string, cordage of whatever type. If there's any skill I could recommend to learn how to make this stuff, super useful. So this is going to double up as our bowstring. The other thing, however, we will need a hacksaw blade of some kind. These little mesh handles are great for them because you can slide on any sort of blade onto them, be it for wood or steel or whatever. Alternatively, if you don't have that, if you have duct tape, you can just wrap duct tape around the end of one of these and you still have a handle for it. Good sharp knife, press down, roll. And there we go. Cleanly cut through. Now that's one of the issues with sawing, that it can disrupt the fibers, so something to be aware of. So when it comes to cutting our spoons, you could try brute force them, you could try snap them. The only risk is if we're trying to snap them over something, we might be left with a tiny little piece. So ideally for this, about 1 inch is plenty. We have our arrowhead. But the beauty of these spoons is that I can just literally use this jagged piece to actually work my way down into the shaft. So I'm going to show you that now. So we place in, rotate. I'm actually using the spoon itself as a drill, and we have one freshly mounted arrowhead. Mark this out with a Sharpie. This is what we're going to do. We have our 3 arrowheads roughed out. Now, I went with mainly these sort of leaf shapes. You can add barbs, it's fairly easily done. You could just cut in here and add barbs onto these if you wanted to. However, most of what these would be used for is obviously in a zombie apocalypse scenario for taking out zombies, in which case it's a soft target. You don't need barbs, it's just going to stick in the thing. But if you're using these for hunting, that's sort of head that you'd want. Also, important detail that I rarely see brought up in these sort of scenarios is that if we're looking at a zombie apocalypse, often most of the animals that we'll be able to hunt or get close to will be livestock. Farmers will be gone, but livestock will probably still be in the fields. Now, I also tried this out, so I'm going to try this and see how it works. This is the handle of one of these spoons. So imagine it would be like this. All I did was cut one end to a point and file it down a little bit. So what you're going to see with these arrows and the ones that I'm going to make is I'm going to make different versions depending on how much time and resources you have available. So I'm going to go absolutely bare bones and work up to if you had a few tools and a bit more time. A lot of this stuff can be done without tools. It's just going to take longer to make them a little bit more durable. One of the things we do definitely want to do, especially with a tang, is reinforce this part of the shaft, because if this hits something, the shaft will generally keep going, and we don't want this to explode out through the side. So if you're not good at tying knots, duct tape. For reinforcing with rope, we get our regular strand that we have and pull it apart so that we have more strands that we can then use to wrap up. So we'll have duct tape wrapped with glue, and we'll try one with no wrapping at all and see how that works. So there we go. Here are our 4 arrowheads. So our broadheads and our more kind of a spear tip. And we'll mount all these up. So for glue, obviously in an apocalypse scenario, this is probably going to be your go-to, super glue. You find this all over the place. Probably, depending on, long term, you're going to have different things, but almost every house will have super glue in it. So this is to it, wood glue, but depending on what you're up to and long term survival and all that, this might be more useful for the stuff. For finished heads, I've added glue into some, not into others. This one is just forced in. So we have kind of our spear tip, just shoved it in. Pretty sturdy though, don't think this one will be going anywhere too easily. This one is got a small amount of glue, but is bound with some duct tape. So for those who can't tie knots, this is the way you can do it. For those who can, this one is glued, bound, and the bindings are also gone over in glue, which already is starting to solidify, make it a bit harder. And then this one is just glued and bound. So first you want to lie a piece down flat of our duct tape. So second one we lay right over the top, roughly central. Then we start to roll it over. I'm going to pinch both sides, and there you have it. Cut it about a half-inch strip like so. All we're going to do is just to protect the beginning of our fletchings here, this lifting off, because sometimes this will catch on stuff and lift off, and obviously if that happens we might lose our fletching. So now we're going to make the bow part for this build. So the easiest and quickest way to make a survival bow, or one in a zombie apocalypse scenario, is to make a bundle bow. Now I'm using bamboo. You could potentially use any sapling that you find. Eventually you would have to replace it. So this is a very quick and dirty bow build. So for this you need a few bamboo canes, or like I said, any other sapling. If you only have short canes, you can stagger these, but I have 6 foot long canes. So we're going to go with a 3-2-1 design. You'll see that as I do it. And we're just going to tape these together. So you can use cordage for this. This cordage is what we're going to use for the string. It is a jute twine or hemp twine. The reason we're going to use duct tape is because a lot of you viewers potentially might not be particularly good at tying knots. Bamboo is also quite slippery, so if you mess up our knots, there's potential that it can slide around. Our bow is fully finished. It was about 10-15 minutes of duct taping this up. Like I said, this bow probably eventually will break, but as you can hear, we've got a decent bit of power in this. The main reason why I went with that 3-2-1 shape on it is primarily to have a flat shelf off of which to shoot. The thing I see with a lot of bamboo bundle bows is they go out quite wide, and your arrows, if they're not spined, will just shoot off in that direction, especially when you have mismatched arrows. So what I've done with this one, I can actually shoot it this way, and the string is ever so slightly offset, so it will shoot pretty straight. I'm also not going to draw this thing fully because there is a chance with my long draw that it might break. So next up we're going to test the poundage and see what sort of power we have. 41.8 pounds at 24 inches. That is pretty ideal. 41 is a cutoff limit in a lot of states in America for hunting deer, so it goes to show as a 24, if I spend a little bit more time on this, I could easily get something that I could take out to 26 or 28 with that sort of draw weight. It's going to be a pretty powerful shooting bow for very minimal effort. So next up we're going to test out our 4 arrows. Each have slightly different fletchings, each have slightly different heads, each have a slightly different finish and level of detail on them. These strings will stretch, so you might have to retie it a few times. A lot of strings will do that, so with strings like this, they may well stretch as they come to shape. So be aware of that when you are stringing your bow. Stock camera, as soon as I went to take the first shot, the original string broke, so I've replaced this with an old bowstring I have. New string on the bow. We're going to test our first arrow, our spear tip with our shallow nock. It's going to need a pinch grip draw. But first up, penetration test with our spear tip. Arrow was not glued in, so I can't stick it back in. However, the shaft itself is split, so this one unfortunately is a write-off. Spear tip, duct tape fletching, duct tape bindings. See if this one will hold up a bit better. Nice. Thread bound broadhead with duct tape fletching. Finally then, our properly finished arrow with bound feather fletchings and a broadhead. Thanks to that pretty offset string, flying dead straight, and we'll go show you on the target now. So see here, I'm talking about dead straight. They all landed almost in a perfectly vertical line from each other. So arrows are quite stiff, but worked to our advantage. So it's only shooting through some layered up cardboard, but we can see good big penetration on those. That's why I should have that backstop netting. This spade tip really goes to show the importance of binding your arrow on a bamboo shaft like this. And you can see the actual act of the leverage of this. Literally just did this, levered out the head from it. Head is fine, it's the advantage of heads like this. So next up we're going to take the bow out to range. We're at about 30 feet now. We did see with that round of arrows, we had some of them land within a few inches of each other, so we can get accuracy, and with some practice with this I'm sure I'll be able to get really tight, good groupings with it. So we're going to go in the same order, starting with our all duct tape broadhead and working up from there. Next up, duct tape and thread bound broadhead. This arrow is considerably lighter than the last one, so it might fly a bit straighter. Finally then, our traditionally fletched and bound. So here we are sight on. Now like I said, this arrow is considerably heavier than the others, but these ones all held up. Okay, so I think we've proven these arrows are fairly lethal. Finally then, we're going to do a durability test and see how well these hold up against hitting a hard target. So I have here an old door. This is something you definitely be shooting at or into in a kind of apocalypse scenario, so I think it's a pretty good test for it. So the only two I'm going to test for this is our duct tape bound arrow and our thread bound arrow, because these are the two ends of the spectrum. This is the least amount of effort and the most amount of effort. Hey folks, there we have it, our two arrows. Both held up. This one actually impacted this tire a few times and still held up. Now I'm going to try retrieving from the target and see what they look like, but to give you an idea, he went about a half an inch into that door. You can see there. Actually see the paint from the door on it. The head was already slightly bent, so I'm not sure if it bent it at all, but we have a tiny amount of splitting in the head, but considering the impact that went through and considering that's only about 3 layers of duct tape, I'm really surprised with how well that held up. You can see there, slight splitting, but really impressive how well that held up considering. Now, our bound head, this one probably would have gone further, slightly nicked this panel, but yeah, so maybe 3/4 of an inch on that one. You can see in the back here where it went in. No visible damage whatsoever. For hitting a door at full force, that's pretty damn good. So yeah, it goes to show why bamboo is so useful for these. If you enjoyed this video and you want to see another zombie survival bow build, if you don't have access to bamboo, let me know in the comments. Give this a like. And of course, even if you have these bows, even if you have the arrows, the most important thing is the training. So get out there, train, learn how to use a bow, find an archery club, learn how to shoot these things, have fun doing it. Thank you all so much for watching. Really appreciate all your support. Thank you once again, and so on.